how does someone go from trying to make an Olympic team eventually now to running their own clothing company? Like, how does that actually happen?
Well, it's one of those things where if you take the traits that it takes to be able to get to the collegiate level, and then go through that collegiate level and then try to kind of figure out what the transition is, because maybe for some reason you're not going to go ahead and do it professionally, but those traits, the discipline, the focus that you have, if you can find the right niche, the thing that gets you excited every day to do from a work standpoint, then I think that you really have the opportunity to build something great. And I think you start there, you just work each day like you did as an athlete, you'll have an opportunity to do whatever you want to do.
Is there something that you gained from not only just being a student athlete at Arizona, but just the education there that helped you or put you on this path to find something that you are passionate about? Because Percy, I would imagine you get a lot of former athletes that are trying to figure out what they're passionate about, and they just don't exactly know. Like, you were able to find that niche. That's just not what everyone gets to do, or at least finds it relatively quickly.
Sure. Yeah. Well, for me, it wasn't like in school and then transitioning out that I thought, hey, I'm going to get into, helping to build a professional athlete training facility and then transition into one of the top clothing companies out there for professional athletes. That's definitely not the track I was on. I went into school and decided that I was going to focus on media arts after my second year in school. And I was personally thinking about trying to go to Hollywood and maybe be a writer or a director. That was my kind of initial kind of dream. Once I realized that I just probably wasn't cut out for what it takes to do that grind in Hollywood, I then started to realize that I really like to try and sell and market. So when I got out of school, I had to try and find a sponsor. So when I was at the University of Arizona and stayed there to train, I had to start looking for maybe some local businesses that would help me with my goal of trying to make the Olympic team. And it was through that process that I realized that I like to be in front of people. I like to talk to them about what kind of value I could potentially give. And I realized at that point that I like sales and the marketing piece of it. So it was from there that kind of built up this track that I ultimately ended on. And again, it wasn't like it was preordained. I just kind of went from these various different companies and then just ultimately ended up where I'm at today.
So you're having success. You obviously had success when you were at Arizona, four-time All-American. And now all of a sudden you do find yourself because of, look, you're affable, right? I mean, that's part of it. And you network and you sort of work your way up. And now all of a sudden you have your own business. Now, because of the climate in this country right now, I think it's becoming very, very clear that African Americans in the United States, and I would argue really all over the world, depending on where they're located, have some challenges, especially on the business side. And we've seen CEOs from Fortune 500 companies say, hey, we got to do a better job to put people and minorities in a position where they're not just employed, but they're in management at the high level. What were some of the challenges for you as a Black male to start your own business and to find some success?
Well, and let me just make one quick correction. So as far as this isn't solely owned by me. So this company, I'm in partnership with a couple of other people. And as a matter of fact, a couple of people started the company and then I came up underneath them and worked my way up to a partnership level. So I just want to make sure I'm
sure.
But again, there is that challenge, right? As you come in and as you try to kind of focus on how you're going to do things, I think some athletes can get caught up in trying, because they got to a certain level as an athlete, whether they stopped at a collegiate level or even once they became a professional, they want to keep that lifestyle and they want to just stay on top.
Sure.
The problem typically happens is that you're not going to start on top. You're going to have to kind of go back to the grind like you did when you were a freshman in high school, a freshman in college, and when you first start out as a professional athlete. You always have to typically start at the bottom. So as you progress your way up, that's, I think, how you start to learn some of the skills that you need to be able to kind of figure out if you are a person that can be in management, can actually then look at ways to create business development. And it's that process from starting from the bottom and that grind.
Percy, I've heard other people, and I don't know sort of the ethnicity and background of some of your partners in terms of your business, but how important is it to have diversity in the workplace and some of the advantages that your company has been able to find with someone like yourself, obviously in a role like that?
Yeah. So the way I kind of look at this is, you want as much diversity as possible because you want backgrounds that you can pull their strengths from those backgrounds and to be able to lift the company up as a whole. A lot of our business is generated from minorities, okay? Because a big chunk of our business is focused on the pro athlete, market. We have to be able to communicate, understand, and be able to kind of ebb and flow with that particular population, right? So you got that side of it, and then we are actually working with a lot of CEOs, right? So you've got a kind of a blend of different mindsets, and it's not even so much about like color or anything like that. It's more mindset. So it's been great to have a lot of diversity in our company, so that we can draw upon it, especially if we're having some struggles in different areas, especially again as we're trying to build the business development piece of this. So when I say business development, like one of the things that we do is we focus on Las Vegas. So a lot of the casinos there, they have a population that they have to continue to try and lure in. So we're one of those opportunities to be kind of a gift to that clientele. So to be able to kind of manage that whole process and kind of understand how they have to take care of their customers, and we're an extension of them, you've got to have a lot of diversity in order to kind of navigate through that process. So it's a huge, valuable piece of our puzzle.
Percy, from a personal standpoint, you have two kids, and actually last week I had an opportunity to talk to Jimmy Lake, who's the football coach at Washington, about the conversations he's having with not only his team, but him also being a dad, like what that experience is like in the current climate.
Yeah.
Explain to me at home what some of those conversations are like, because in your situation, if I'm not mistaken, your kids are a little bit older too. They are biracial, right? And so
Yes.
that's another factor that's also involved. But take me into sort of your living room and how those conversations are taking place and what they're like.
Sure. So I have a 17-year-old daughter, and I have a 13-year-old son. My 17-year-old daughter is, because she's been involved in social media for probably the last 2.5 to maybe 3 years. My conversations with her are a lot different than the conversations I have with my son. So with my daughter specifically, and because she kind of understands and knows the nuances of what happens on social media, it's very easy for her to get caught up in what's happening. One, amongst her friends, but also just looking out at the outer world and seeing all these different images and videos, and everyone's kind of trying to create their own narratives with all these different social media posts. So how are you supposed to take them? Do you take it with a grain of salt? Do you automatically think someone is a certain way because they post it? So a lot of my conversations have been trying to navigate her through that, and not to get too excited and maybe post something that she shouldn't have based off of emotion. And then I got my son, who isn't on social media, who's playing Xbox all the time with his friends and isn't fully kind of connected to what's going on. But I'm having to, kind of feed him bite-sized portions of what is happening and kind of understanding. And I've already started the process with both of them, kind of understanding how you handle situations with law enforcement, because it's better for you to already know what to do than trying to make it up as you go if it was to happen. So we've kind of started, this process, and I've made sure that they know and understand that I've spent time talking to some of my friends that are in law enforcement, so that I can understand their perspective when it comes to the things that are going on. I then give my perspective, my wife gives her perspective on things, and we just try to keep everything balanced.